Hello, hello, my beasties. Welcome to the Lair. How's everybody doing?
Hello, the Lucky. Hey, beasties. And here's a Patty, too. Yay.
Hello, beasties. Hello,
I I,
everyone.
I see that. Hey, Philip. How's everybody doing this evening?
Hi, Philip. Hey, JMK.
We're here. We breathe. Yay.
How's everybody?
Kenosho.
Hey, JMK. What I do need to do really quick while we talk is take control of my channel back from Croc over here, who's gone rogue and has decided he's doing what he wants.
Oh, give me 5 seconds.
That's what squirrels do.
I was just
They go
going
rogue.
on the thing to put on a like.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen those
Hey,
squirrel
Iris.
courses where the squirrel has to figure out how to get to his favorite treat?
Yup.
And if he goes through the wrong spot, he gets catapulted off the course. Maybe we could set up one of those for the Croco squirrel.
He's about
Yeah.
to get himself yeeted off the channel at the rate he's going today.
I think you'll feel him better.
No, I'm feeling worse.
Oh, no.
I'm quite grumpy.
You're not
But
allowed to be grumpy.
I
You're
am.
still beautiful.
Thank you. I still look like a teenage boy.
Hey, if you, whatever you got to do to still look 19, it's all good.
Hey,
Nobody's
I.
Nobody's going to complain about us looking 19.
Yeah, but everyone calls me young man.
I got
Icon.
that as a kid growing up too. It's okay.
Icon. Before I forget, thank you so very much for being over there at the premiere on Dr. Raynor's channel. Meant a lot
Hey,
to me to
intellectual.
see you there. Meant a lot to have me there at the premiere on Dr. Raynor's channel. Thank you. Yeah, I may
Hello,
arrange this
Mayor.
weather.
Hello, Creed.
Yeah, Creed, you weren't a 39-year-old female, though. 38. Oh, my, yeah, 38. 38-year-old female.
Okay,
I,
okay, okay. I'll give you drugs. Jeez. You want
I, I
this?
can, I can model for the NB calendars now.
Do I need to go get my hoodie and my cap and go live? Is that what we're saying?
Um, I
We'll see
guess
how young.
in theory,
Give me a
I,
pumpkin.
I
Opened.
guess, I guess in theory.
Patty for the win, says Creed.
Oh no, people genuinely think I'm a guy. That's why I love you, Iris. Although Iris, in all honesty, I think that's like the majority of Mike's channel.
You done?
She wants her micro.
Are you done? Oh,
She she wants her micro is what she wants.
you're fine. I promise. You're fine.
Oh my God, Croc. Yeah, I look like a teenage boy a lot of the time. I get called one a lot of the time. But the problem is, I am incredibly tall for a female. And Patty, I have a question. Or Iris. Kenosho. Hello, Kenosho. Welcome. Welcome. It's being carded all the time. That's insulting. I don't get carded very much. In all honesty. Although in college, my best friend, who definitely has a baby face, she would always get carded, and then on her 21st birthday didn't get carded, and we had to go to the state liquor store to get her carded. Like she had a fake ID for the longest time, which worked out great. But the best was the one night she wanted to get carded that she couldn't. Yeah, Kenosho, it's not so much that it's insulting. It is the fact that most people think I'm a guy. Like legitimately think I'm a guy. And if you look at some of the thumbnails on the channel, you will see I'm most definitely not a guy. As a matter of fact, I've been a Maxim. So I'm most definitely not a guy. But yeah. No, Patty, you still look more feminine than I.
All right, well.
I love you.
There. What up? What up, homie? We good? We good, right? We got some stuff going.
But standing up, Patty, my love. So, Patty, here's my question.
Notice I still have my tribal horse.
I know. Before I forget, though, everybody say hi to Kenosho.
Hey, Kenosho.
We have a new one. Hello. We love all of our new. Hey, Claude, I haven't seen you in a while. First time you've seen Patty. Yes, this is the Patty.
Yay,
the
Claude.
Patty and Croco, my team. The team behind the Loki. I know, no offense. I was just laughing. I always find it funny when people think I'm a guy. And then I turn around and they're like, oh no, not a guy. Like,
no, you are definitely not a guy.
But if
definitely not a guy.
You see me in SWAT gear with my vest on. I most definitely look like a 6-foot
unless your baklava is pink.
My SWAT gear is black. But Patty, I have a dumb question because this got asked of me today. Patty, how tall are you roughly?
I'm 5'3".
What size shoes do you wear?
7.5 in Nike trainers. A 7 in boots, depending on the cut. Why?
Because I got told that I look freakish and like I'm gonna fall over today.
What?
I only wear an 8.
Okay, you also wear a size 0 jean. What's their point?
But my feet.
You don't need a whole lot of foot to balance them. It's only this wide.
Right, but I think everybody assumes because of my height. So you know how they always say like Barbie dolls um wouldn't be able to stand if you scaled them up to like people because it would be like a 5'8" female with like size 5.5 or 6 feet kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wear a 7.5 or an 8 at the biggest.
So in other words, you and I could raid shoes.
Mhm.
I don't think I want to try and walk in your stilettos. That would look like, yeah, no, that would not be pretty.
But I have really tiny feet, and when I wear duty boots, they look even smaller. And so when I went to go pick up my little one, and happened to be wearing my duty boots because it was raining, and jumped out of my
Yeah.
Tahoe, the one male coach for the marathon was like, "You look like you're gonna fall face first because your feet are too little."
Oh,
And yet you
did you
don't.
tell him that it won't matter when he's looking at you from the ground because you just kicked his butt?
I was like, "Oh, sorry."
Excuse me. So sorry. Physics don't apply to Loki.
No, I was like, because my duty boots are a men's, and they're a men's 6.5.
Yeah, that's what size my
Yeah,
duty boots were.
Claudette
They were
is.
tiny.
My duty boots are 6 or 6.5. I can wear a boy's size 6.5 in sneakers.
Free, you got the missing feet that Loki didn't get. That's what's going on. Yeah, you got a choice. You either got really, really tiny feet or you got feet that you look like you need, clown shoes for and or gunboats made for.
Yeah, my brother wears a size 16.
Yeah, he doesn't buy shoes at the JC Penney, does he?
Um,
No, probably not.
yeah, and he's 6'9". Oh yeah, Iris, I know you do, but it was just funny. Like everybody's like, "You have tiny feet," and they were making fun of me today.
Okay, so if anybody asks, I'm taking apart fabric because I didn't like how it went together.
So
Blue and white.
we'll give a
Pieces of
few
it'll
for
probably
people
end up
to
at
get
your
in
house,
here.
Loki.
Okay.
Loki, part of this is going to end up at your house, just so you know.
Okay. Ooh, I.
Oh, icon.
But yeah, no, everybody's just rich.
You know what I'm laughing at, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So, Mayor, are we going to get pictures of the new beard do? That's what I'm
He said
curious about.
Friday.
Friday.
Oh,
Hey,
Friday. I
Danny,
didn't
my
hear that
love.
part.
So we'll give people a few minutes to appear. But yeah, everybody was just like, "What is wrong with your height and your feet?" I'm like, "Y'all can leave my duty boots out of this. It is not my fault I wear children's clothing."
You just
That's
happen to have things in your life that allow your body to be exceptionally slender, even though you don't want it to be.
you don't understand. Micro announced to everybody that she was wearing my socks today.
Oh. Ow.
Oh, Micro Loki.
Well, she wasn't. She was wearing the extra small smalls, and I was wearing the kids' largest.
She was wearing
Iris,
your socks today, Loki.
I was
She
wearing the
wasn't
next size up. Thank you.
Oh,
It may have been from the kids' department, but I was. I actually wore her t-shirt the other day. Yes, I fit into a kid's large.
I just stabbed myself.
Well, don't do that. I would be very
Everybody,
uncomfy.
you don't understand how many times a day I have to go search the children's room to get my clothing back. I didn't think they would steal my stuff this early.
No, you usually have to wait at least a week.
But even the little boy, even the double trouble. I'm almost a teenager. I might make it to 14-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
he wears a kid's large shirt, and so do I. We wear the exact same size shirt. I wear a
Well, if your
kid's
clothing
extra
was
large in shorts.
if your clothing wasn't so damn cool, you wouldn't have this problem.
Nope, not for a second.
Well, the biggest problem I have is the merch that I am gifted. Unfortunately, is usually too big.
Yeah, because they usually send out adult larges.
Yeah, a lot of my PR that I get is an adult size. I'm not wearing Garanimals, Iris. I shop at Target, not Walmart.
Iris, that's mean. It's Croco that shops at Walmart and gets the Garanimal stuff.
No, none of
No,
my kids can wear it.
no, I wear the only nice thing is like when I go to Disney or to hockey games or whatever, I can just buy a kid size shirt and it's half the price.
Huh.
I don't have to go shop the adult section. The
What?
downside is my vest and plate carrier are custom made.
Come here.
You should have heard my boss the other day.
Sorry, dealing with a small red dog.
Hi, baby girl.
Oh, look at her appleness.
She's whining. I can't handle her when she whines. It's like listening to a baby cry.
Yeah,
Come
that's
here,
never
pumpkin.
fun.
There you go. Sit right there.
Yeah, puppy. That would be Miss Apple Rose.
Yeah, this is
the micro.
Apple.
This is Apple Rose, the love of Micro Loki's life. They kiss each
Here,
other
you want to
through
say
the
hi,
screen.
everybody? Show everybody how cute your little face is. Show everybody how you pout and look concerned
She's like,
about life.
Mom, I hate you.
Yeah, pretty much. She's very concerned about life. Oh, I know how we can get her.
Cheese.
Say, here, look up here. Oh.
Yep, it's treat time.
She says, that's tasty, Mommy. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
I keep puppy treats on my desk. Yes, this is
Yeah.
Apple. She got spayed today.
Yeah. So she's mad.
Yes, she is very sad.
Yeah, no, I will never forget like that they called my boss and they were like, we don't have a vest that fits her. We have to custom make her a vest.
Say, Mayor McGnome, I want to cuddle up in your beard. Tell him, I'm going to cuddle in your beard. I'm going to rat nest it and make it so that it's a bed and I will sleep in it. What? All gone.
Yeah. It's insanity. But no,
I'm
everybody
not
was like,
kidding. She does that to my hair at night. I wake up in the morning with a rat's nest in my hair because she's made a bed in it.
Creed,
Any of you people watching, yes, she will curl up in your hair. So be very, very careful. She sleeps on the pillow.
No, Creed. I have a level 4. Yeah, I've got my vest with my plate carriers and
There you go.
all of my attachments. The problem is the other ones are, yeah, bulletproof vest. Yeah, they're too short on me because I'm almost 6 feet tall. So if it's small enough to fit me in general, because the one they gave me, my wraparound sides on my vest, crossed over in the middle of the stomach.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
So it was a corset.
No, it wasn't a corset because it couldn't reach the Velcro. Because it was so far past the Velcro, it was a train wreck.
I bet.
I think I have I want to say a 21-inch waist.
And I have a 21-inch thigh.
Yeah,
That's
I hear that
okay.
a lot.
Thick thighs save lives. Remember that.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. People comment about that all the time. But
Loki, you better watch out. Mayor McNumm's sending out his high school senior pictures again.
oh,
Oh.
baby.
He's pretty cute. He's rocking that leisure suit.
JMK, that's me. I love you, I. Yeah, no. Mm-hmm.
JMK, you wear a 3 extra large shirt. Yeah, 21-inch neck would be a pro.
Yeah, but here's the
That'd be all
thing.
right.
I have Micro Loki was excited. She found an Under Armour tennis skirt that's got the shorts built in.
Oh boy.
And, she wears an extra
Yes,
small.
Sanji, I have a face.
She's wearing an extra small, and I'm wearing a kid's large. Everyone's like, why are you sharing clothes? Shut up and leave me alone.
Because I can.
Mm-hmm.
And you looked very, very dapper, Mayor. If you would have asked me to prom, I would have said yes.
We all would have gone to prom with you, Mayor. We've all had this discussion. I'll just hold you in the cleavage. But that was the thing when I put the thumbnail up for my loop video. I cannot tell you the number of people that commented I didn't know that's what you were rocking under the vest. How did you think I ended up in Maxim?
Because she's gorgeous.
No, but people think I have no boobs because I'm so tall. No, I do. You just, I can hide everything. Yeah, but it was great. But so let's talk. Let's talk about the video and the Dr. Chris podcast. We haven't gotten to talk about the Dr. Chris video and podcast much. So you're adorable, Mayor Wrench. So show of hands, I only have 8 or so. I'm sure more will appear, but what are our overwhelming questions? Because I have there's a series of questions, and I have them, and I have the video queued up, and the number of people that have the exact same questions I think are funny. But
Oh, Icon's at it again.
I love Icon.
Yeah, he's got some good ones today.
But
Sure. He's not wrong. By the way.
Unlike a certain rapper
Anubis.
we know, you'd have a lot of fun in Japan.
Yeah.
All the fun, all the time.
What is that? Oh. Okay, that was very confusing for a minute.
What is the mechanism of Narcan? Is it similar to atropine?
It
That would be a
is
question for Lo-
not. So the mechanism of Narcan is it unbinds the fentanyl and any opiate from the mu opioid receptors.
Mm.
Okay,
So
Iris.
they
We'll get to
hold
you
on, I'll
next.
get there. They the the mu opioid receptors, it unbinds them, and it has a higher affinity for the mu opioid receptors than the narcotic. But the problem is it has a much shorter half-life. So you see with Narcan, and I always explain it as locks and keys. So we're gonna go back and put things up, but it locks and keys. It unbinds everything. The problem
Okay.
we run into with Narcan is some of the drugs, especially some of the long-acting opiates, depend on a couple other things, people will re-overdose. So, a lot of people had some criticism that I said, the goal is not to make somebody sober with Narcan. The goal is to titrate it to a point that they don't have the depressed respiratory drive. So all I care about, in all honesty, is you're ventilating appropriate. I could care less. I don't want a pissed off drug addict in the back of a moving vehicle.
Yeah,
I don't. They're a pain. And if I give you too much Narcan, you're going to projectile vomit like the exorcist. And there's only so many places to go.
And they frown on you putting a trash bag over the head of a patient in the back of an ambulance, right?
Yeah,
No, they don't.
No?
As long as you flip it and just cut a hole, you're fine. But the best thing to do is you find that police officer you really don't like, and you make them the vomit officer. Which means if you look at the back of the ambulance, there's something called the CPR seat, which is this little seat right across from the bench seat, at chest height. And you sit them right there, and then you roll the patient towards them every time they puke. So they puke in the vomit officer's lap.
Oh, that's just special.
Yeah, ironically, you don't want to be the vomit cop. I had an officer who I went as a volunteer medic on a pediatric arrest at 3:00 in the morning. And at 3 a.m., 3:30, 4:00, after we got done with the call, would not, after the call, he decided to pull me over for an illegal U-turn. And I was like, really? Okay. Wrote me a ticket. Told me he was doing me a favor for not giving me a moving violation. Just a failure to yield. Or something stupid. And the police chief was like, I can't force you to do anything, but I suggest you revoke that. No, I'm sick of these medics and these fire departments and these SWAT medics and these people thinking that they're special. That man spent every shift after that as the vomit officer. We'd go on a call and I would put everybody in the elevator but him, hand him my house back and go, let's go. We're taking the stairs. Let's go, buddy.
Oh, yeah. No, he did. He ill appreciated that.
I paid my ticket. I didn't complain about it. But yeah, so Narcan works from unbinding the mute opioid receptors, and all you really care about is making sure they're okay. The problem is you have to watch them. And I know plenty of people that do harm reduction, and I've taught harm reduction classes. The problem is, if you give Narcan, they will burn through the Narcan and spontaneously re-overdose. At the beginning of the fentanyl-laced heroin craze, we were carrying bricks of Narcan, which were like 8 and 10 syringes in a brick. And I would just dump out half of like 100cc bag, dump all the Narcan in and run the Narcan drip.
Ooh.
Because of how fast they burn through it because of the amount of fentanyl.
Ow.
So the other thing that you have to deal with metabolizing Narcan is not just the affinity for the receptors, it's how much is there. If you have an overwhelming amount of fentanyl, yeah, wait, no, Narcan isn't what you do to keep partying. If you have an amount of fentanyl that's significant enough, it'll actually strip the Narcan, and then you'll still they'll re-overdose. And you have to redose them with Narcan over and over. So I would just hang a Narcan drip. It's easier for me, in all honesty, because I can just titrate to effect. But that's how it works. I would not collaborate with FDC. There is not enough money or whiskey for me to collaborate with FDC.
What is FDC?
Fire Department Chronicles. I know who he is in real life.
Oh, okay. See, I forgive my squirrely ignorance.
Yeah, he's super, super popular because he makes these spectacle skits about fire medics and SWAT medics and medics, but a lot of providers have issues with how he portrays us. McNome, if you're not really into like the fire department or medical content, You probably haven't seen it. And it is funny for people that aren't in the field, but some of his portrayals are offensive to me. And I'm hard to offend. He makes us look really bad with some of the things he says and does.
Yeah, that's not a bonus.
How
And
about just say no to drugs?
quite honestly, I don't have an issue with him on a personal level. It's a professional level, especially since he's an officer at the fire department. Hey, JLo. You know, I believe he's a deputy chief now, or an assistant chief somewhere. But there are things I take some issue with. But I can tell you, I just go look him up, you'll see. So there's that. Yeah, so you shouldn't take the Narcan to just keep being able to party. Now, what I will say about Narcan and the situation, and I want to be very clear on this. I do not have an issue with Narcan being available without a prescription. I don't have an issue with Narcan being handed out at harm reduction clinics. But like I said in the podcast version of the video, where I have a problem is I have built a relationship with a lot of my addicts. And I brought this up, and I'm not sure if it's in part of the podcast. I asked one of them about the overdosing in the Narcan, right? And his answer to me was, well, we used to care because if you did too much, you die. But now that we can get Narcan, we don't have to risk wasting the high. Because what people don't understand, if they're not someone that's using drugs, if I take a stamp bag of heroin, fentanyl, whatever, and I take half, and it's not enough to get me high, so I take the second half, I'm still not going to get high. What a lot of addicts need is that initial rush to get the dopamine, so they take it all at once, because taking half won't get them there. So they feel like they're wasting it. So they just take it all, and if it's too much, yeah, I'll reverse it.
If it's too much, my buddy knows how to give me Narcan. It's okay.
Right. So to a degree, Narcan can be problematic in those circles because it encourages people that are chasing the high. It encourages them to go to the next level and chase it harder.
Which is not something you want them doing.
No, not at all.
Mayor Wrench, I mean, there's most of his stuff is shorts and very short. I don't have an issue with people watching him. It just does not align with my values. some of his content just doesn't align with my values of education. You know, I advocate, even with firearms. How many times do I lecture you guys about safety, clearing weapons? I don't care if it's clear and I've half disassembled it. We still don't point it. No reason, no circumstance. And I don't stray from the values. So, if I don't agree with the portrayal, I do not align myself. That's just me. I know Dr. Chris is the same way. Okay, let's talk Kratom. Let's talk Kratom. Danny, you know what it actually is? Danny, do you know what you're actually taking? And where are you getting it? Waiting. Okay, so you don't know. Okay, does anybody know out of our group? So kratom is a plant, technically, that is not in fact an opiate, and is currently not illegal in most places. It is being criminalized in places at this point. The bigger problem with kratom is it's not pure and it's not regulated. No, kratom is a plant from Malaysia. And it's green and it stems. And if you go to Malaysia, they chew it. You'll see them just chewing on the stem. It produces a combination of an opioid and a stimulant like high. There are a lot of people that use it to get off of opioids. Here's the problem, you can't reverse it. There's no reversal for it. 2, and guys, I'm gonna throw this out there, and Danny knows me, so I'm not picking on Danny, right? And Danny knows me. And anybody that spends any time on my channel knows I love my beasties. I love everybody in the lair. We are here for education. I don't judge. And if anybody here in the lair tonight, or anybody watching me on the repeat, hi, I'm Loki. I have worked in public safety for more than 16 years. I'm a licensed tactical and critical care medic. I'm a licensed advanced practice medic. I work in OSHA. I do toxicology. I'm a hazmat medic. I have a degree in virology. So I do have the education to back it up. I also am a safe space in that if you come to me and say, I need help, I don't judge. And anybody here in the Lair that knows me or on my channel knows we don't judge here. We're not rude, we don't name call, and we don't judge. Who was that? Me? We don't judge. And if you reach out to me, I know you are, Danny. I'm prefacing this for other people. If you reach out to me, everything always stays between you and I. And I will get you whatever resources you need, okay? So that being said, the issue with kratom, you can't reverse it, and it is highly contaminated. Danny, when we have run them through the mass spec, the majority of kratom products have extremely high levels of heavy metal. Like mercury poisoning levels in certain samples. Yeah, it is generally highly contaminated with heavy metals. And once again, because it is not regulated, it doesn't have to be tested. So while the pure, lead, cadmium, mercury, you name it, kratom usually has very high levels of heavy metals. I have seen people with lead and cadmium poisoning from it that have come into the ER. It's not regulated, so there's no way to know what's in it.
I'm kind of wondering how that would be, why it would be a heavy source for, or a source like for that kind of a heavy metal.
So it's grown in countries like Malaysia, Vietnam. So if you think back to Malaysia and Vietnam, especially like Vietnam, what do you think is in the ground in areas
There is
from
that.
the Vietnam War?
Yes, there is that.
Lots of soil contamination, can be shipped with these heavy metals. That's good, Amanda. Hey, hi.
Amanda?
But that's the problem with it, Danny. You know, we've had women that showed up to the ER pregnant, and we ran a tox panel, and they're like, "There's mercury poisoning," and someone's
that's
pregnant.
not good for anybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't. I've never asked.
Go back to the ghetto now.
Mm-hmm. But because it's not regulated, yeah, and they say it's tested, but it doesn't matter. It's not regulated. Just like dermatologist tested, not regulated. Clean makeup doesn't mean anything. It's a marketing term. And Creed's right. You go to sea and they'll chew them. They chew on the leaves or the stem. Leaves or teeth in your mouth looking all kinds of funky colors. But in the US, people get it and it's a powder or in pills or whatever. Most of the time, like when we would, for a while, we had a task force group, and we would go out and buy it at different places. and run it through the mass spectrometer. And when you'd run it through mass spec and look at the heavy metal peaks. So, it can be problematic. The thing is, Danny, it's a dual-edged sword, right? Everything is. If they regulate it, that means it has to be scheduled through the FDA. It has no legitimate medical use at this point. So the FDA is not going to approve it because there are better, safer options. And if the FDA, now, if you could find one that was tested USP, which is the US Pharmacopoeia, if it's USP tested, but you would have to have USP certification for it to be reliably tested. And it's not going to be USP tested because it's not FDA approved or it's not a nutritional supplement. Unless you found a brand that's USP certified. Anybody can say they test it. That doesn't tell you anything about it.
Doesn't tell you what tests they ran.
Even if they tell you what tests they ran, they can lie. It's not a regulated product, to be truthful. And the issue is every batch is different because, again, it's not coming into the U.S. for any, legitimate purpose. A lot of it comes out of China and shipped in under a false pretense, and then it's sold. Danny, I am in no way saying don't use it.
Just be
if
aware.
That's all that helps. But be aware. And you're in Colorado, which weed is legal. You can get THC creams, CBD THC creams, oils, balms, salves, anything. And that is regulated out there. On top of that, the doctors are generally a lot more lax. If I were you, I would, at the very least, if it truly helps you, and you're like, I really, really don't want to use marijuana. I don't want other drugs. I like it. It helps. It really helps my pain. Ask your PCP to periodically order you blood work to check your heavy metal levels. Like every 3 months, just get your labs drawn. As long as your labs are okay, you're good. Tell your doctor. Get your blood work. Do you get heavy metal testing specifically? That is a separate test. It is not on any screening panel. That's common. It is one that has to be ordered special and drawn special. Tell them you want a heavy metal screening.
And if they ask why, for God's sake, tell them.
Just tell them. It's not illegal. So it's not like if you're saying I took kratom, they'd be like, oh my God, you did this illegal thing. It's legal. But I mean, I would say explicitly, I want, my body tested for heavy metals. You know what, Danny? I have my own issues with marijuana. It makes me really sick. But um I do know the doctor that I talked to said that you just need to find the right THC to CBD ratio and the right strain, like indica versus sativas and all of that. But I have something called hyperemesis cannabinoid. It makes me puke. Like nonstop puke. But if it works for you, that's great. But tell them you need heavy metal testing specifically. So here's my answer on kratom. No, Mayor Wrench. What people don't understand is THC and CBD work differently, but the ratio is what's important. So CBD keeps you from feeling super crazy high from THC. It counteracts a lot of those like off your face high. And it negates some of those effects. But yeah, no, Danny, just get the heavy metal testing and ask, since you've never had the heavy metal testing, also ask them to do the hair test. Because what they can do is they'll take your hair and they can check, like when they do the hair testing, it'll show you if there was like a month or something where you peaked in heavy metals. Yeah, the different terpenes will have an effect on the type of high, the ratio of THC to CBD, but just be cognizant. Be cognizant of things like kratom. Be very cognizant of the heavy metal poisoning. Your ball's in there. But let's go back and let's talk about what I was on this podcast for. Xylazine. Now, one of the number one questions I saw was about crocodile. So here's the thing. Yeah, Trank. Trank is known as xylazine, which is its generic, and under the trade name Remeron. Trank, aka Remeron, aka xylazine, is an alpha 2 agonist. It's non-narcotic. It's actually hold on one second. It is a clonidine, not clonopin, clonidine derivative. How is it used? It is used as an adjunct with either fentanyl or ketamine in horses, dogs, cats, veterinary medicine. It is used in conjunction with those to induce anesthesia. We are finding it in the US in fentanyl. To my knowledge, it has not been found other than mixed with fentanyl or ketamine. Like, it's not showing up by itself. The issue that you have is it's cheap and it's not illegal. Because it's not a controlled substance and not illegal, it's easier to smuggle into the US. And it comes out of Puerto Rico generally. And Trank, the zombie drug.
That I had already sorted out.
Because, okay, Croc, yeah. So it's cut with fentanyl or ketamine. And dealers are cutting it with the fentanyl because it's cheap. Fentanyl is generally injected like heroin, yeah. But you actually find fentanyl cut with cocaine a lot more now. That's why you're seeing all of these super, super famous people dying of an overdose, right? Because they're cutting cocaine with fentanyl. A lot of these celebrities and athletes that have died in the past 6 months, it's been cocaine cut with fentanyl. Creed, what? Yeah, they're cutting cocaine with fentanyl. But again, Trank is, again, not illegal. Now, here's the other thing. Not only is Trank cheap, Trank, which is xylazine, produces a unique high. Not only does it produce a unique high, it does what we call potentiate. And what that means is 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 plus 1 now equals 5. So if you are a dealer and you have someone that's really hard to get high, and you know they got a really high tolerance, you put a bunch of Trank in their fentanyl, they gonna get high and you got the good in their mind. Because what you're cutting works better for them because of that potentiation. So, the problem with Trank, and everybody in the video, one of the most common questions I saw was, is this just like crocodile? And I said, no, whole other ball of wax. And people were like, I don't understand. Crocodile is some generally Eastern European or Russian, and I am allowed to say this, I'm Czech. But, bootleg hillbilly Russian or Eastern European abomination of a concoction made with gasoline.
Yeah, like that's not going to end badly.
It's like, dumb Americans that made meth using, Sudafed antifreeze. What else? You got meth over there that they're cooking out back. Same thing with crocodile. Yeah. It's insane. So everybody sees, codeine. Everybody sees crocodile and the necrosis it caused. And then they see the necrosis that you get with xylazine, also known as tranq, and they think it's the same, right? Meth is different than speed. I'll get there in a minute. Creed. They're different. Crocodile's still an opiate. So while they both cause necrosis, crocodile causes those horrible wounds from the gasoline that people are using that's in it, and the other nasty chemicals in it. And predominantly because it does something called extravasation, which means it gets out of the vessel either by blowing the vein or by eating through it. And it ends up in the tissue locally and it kills it. And then their skin turns black. But it's still an opiate and we can reverse it with lots and lots and lots of Narcan. Xylazine at this point has no reversal agent in humans. In animals, you can reverse it with several different drugs, but it doesn't work in humans. They've tried. In some cases, people have had success, but not across the board. So,
Well, yes, we are Iris, but it doesn't mean that the biology's quite the same.
yeah, and I'll get there. So, yes, both of them kill off tissue, but for different reasons, right? So, crocodile's still an opiate, you can still reverse it. The issue with xylazine is, I can't reverse it. We can't reliably reverse it. And it's not limited to where you've given it. Creed, do you mean they use in animals to reverse it? Yes, we have.
Pretty sure that's what she was just talking about.
It doesn't work. Again, in some cases it will, but here's the thing. Yes, we are all under the Animalia kingdom, but you don't share the majority of your biology with a rat or a horse. So just because something works in a horse or a rat or a primate, it's not a one-to-one, It works on
Shit that
humans
works
the
on
same
less
way.
Shit that works on any other ape mostly works on us too.
Okay, Croc.
When you get into the New World,
Croc.
it's kind of squirrely. What?
Stop.
Okay.
So, you know, the problem with Trank is if you inject it into your forearm, let's say, because everybody loves, for some reason, addicts love the vein right here. Usually pretty easy to get to. Your other arm may develop sores.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute, guys.
And Iris, not everyone can be good at everything. Promise.
So, Trank, you find, will cause spontaneous necrotization. So, people will inject it into like their arm or the AC on one side, and they will find these necrotizing sores in random other places in the body, which is hugely problematic because we don't know why. And we still don't have any stuff. Now, the reason that we think it happens in people compared to animals, we think is because in animals, and Patty would know
Yes.
this, they almost always reverse Trank immediately after they're done with the procedure, right? I
Yes.
think always. So
Yes.
we're
Particularly
not
in horses.
right. So we're not reversing it in humans. So the current working theory that we have is horses might get these same necrotic patches randomly if you had let it sit. And it's lipophilic, which means the fat, it likes fat, and it's fat soluble. And it also has issues with vasodilation. So that's why you see the sores in hands and feet and arms and the face more, where you have superficial capillaries. But because they immediately take, rompune, because you take rompune and then you're, turning it and you're reversing it. Humans are sitting for 3 and 4 days and it's pooling. And do we know that's why? No. Because it would be hugely unethical to take a horse, give a horse this drug, and just let it sit and die. So, they're not going to do it. But that's the current working suspicion. Because we're not reversing it. Now, the other thing people are saying is the sores look like crocodile. And, yeah, they do. They're both black or gross. The difference is crocodile essentially is causing gangrene.
Splash.
It's killing off tissue and causing big necrotic patches. Trank causes necrotic areas, and like I said in the video, I had a guy that the entire side of his face right here was gone. With his mouth closed and looking this way, you could see the maxilla and mandible and all his teeth. Had he had a Lair fracture, which is where you break it here to the orbital bone, and then you break the nose and up here, and this whole side of your face will collapse in, you would have seen where a Lair fracture was. But here's the problem. People that have these necrotic gangrenous areas from crocodile don't feel it because it burns through the nerves and kills them. They don't care. Much like diabetics that have a peripheral neuropathy and don't feel their feet. And that's why they don't realize they have a diabetic sore that's not healing. Unfortunately, with Trank, you feel it. It doesn't kill the nerves. At all. They just don't care. They legitimately don't care. You'll be like, does that hurt? Oh yeah, like hell. And you can, in some people, see the nerves. Like, exposed. They just don't care.
Being able to look through dude's arm.
Yeah, so what Croc's talking about is I had a patient and they had done Trank. It ate the muscle right here and the skin. And I could look between the ulna and radius. And you could see the artery, the vein, and the nerve sitting up against the bone. And up against both bones. And the
Do
white
you have
bone.
mobility in that hand by chance?
What?
How is the mobility in the hand?
Fine.
Not going to be making a fist anytime soon, but
Actually, he still had enough of the muscle kind of on the outside, and his tendons were still there, but he had tendon sheath infections, so that was going to be the issue. But like the guy that I could see his teeth and the inside of his face, the inside of the sinus. That's problematic.
They're not pretty.
No.
I mean, if you're trying to get a new idea for like Halloween horror makeup, maybe.
Actually, you said it like
But
you said it was lipophilic. Yeah, lipophilic, right?
no,
It's not cool. It's not cool.
lipophilic would mean it does not. It is well, it's lipophilic, not lipophobic. Yeah, so it's fat soluble.
Okay. What is that going to do in brain tissue?
We don't know.
And brain tissue is a large degree fat.
Here's
Or
the
fat
thing. I am going to say this over and over. We don't know. The only studies we have, and someone tried to correct me in the comments and said, we tried it in humans in the 1980s. It was deemed not safe for humans. No, we did not. The FDA looked at it with a prospectus study. It was deemed not safe for humans before it was tested in humans. It didn't pass animal and other testing and make it to a level where it was actually given to humans in the testing. So there are plenty of drugs that go to the FDA to be tested and they're found to be harmful to humans. That doesn't mean we tested it in a human to find out.
We do the animal testing so we can avoid doing that to humans.
Yes.
There's other testing we do with it and can tell if it is, in fact, harmful. It was deemed not safe for humans. So what we know about it are all retrospective studies. None of them are double blinds. There's no way to ethically do that. But what you're doing is you're doing a meta-analysis. And you're taking all these cases. And the issue is we are taking our data from drug addicts. They don't have optimal nutrition. You're not injecting with sterile technique. You're not dosing. You don't know what it was cut and if it was sterile when it was cut. So you can't get a true meta-analysis of it.
Yeah, there's way too many
variables. And like I said to Chris, in the early 2000s, about 2% of the cases I saw, and about 2% of the samples we analyzed were positive for xylazine. We now have a 30 to 40% xylazine rate in the Philly area. 96% of samples tested positive to some degree of xylazine.
Mayor Wrench has a thought. I agree with this thought, but it's still not particularly ethical, and I wouldn't do it.
I can't legally comment on that. I cannot ethically or legally comment on that. But if you know me, you know my thoughts.
I just know it's one of the drugs in the cocktail they gave to every single horse I had castrated. So there is that.
Again, neither one of you have licenses like I do,
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh.
so I cannot comment on that. But so to respond to the questions from people, yes, there was one test in the 80s. It was deemed not safe for humans, but it wasn't actually tested. So, the problem we have with this is 96, 97% of samples are coming up positive with it. 30 and 40% of the population that's addicted are seeking it out. Like I said on the podcast, one of the first cases of it where I knew we were screwed. I drove past this guy sitting on a bench. And I looked at the med student I had riding along with me that day. And I was like, well, I said, him, and I pointed at the guy. I said, he's kind of nodding off there. I said, that's a fairly, it was near the Kensington area in Philly, which is a really big drug area, over in Kensington. And I said, that's a really common bench to find them on. You have to, know your area because you get to know the benches they like, and you'll find, you have to go check on them because if they're not moving, they're there for multiple days. A lot of times they're dead. They'll sit down, they'll get high, and then they die there, or they overdose, or they freeze, or whatever, right? But this guy, he was kind of sitting there. You could tell he was still breathing. The next day, I drove past. I was like, my man's back. Day 3, I'm like, my man has not moved. I got out. He was still sitting there. I talked to him, and he looked up at me, and the lights were on, and nobody was home. He just looked at me. I was like, come on, my man. Let's go. Into the ambulance, and he just stared at me. Okay. Pick him up, boys. Put him in. My man was there for 3 days. He died of rhabdomyolysis. He died because of kidney failure. Because he had been sitting there for so long, his body started breaking down his muscles for energy, and his kidneys failed.
Ouch.
Because he hadn't moved. But yeah, no, he wasn't dead. And again, it's lipophilic, right? So it's fat soluble, which means even if in thin people, it hangs around for days. And because we don't reverse it, and not like you would have a reversal agent for it anyways, they will be high for days. And you don't know how long. We have no idea how long it takes to clear the body. Generally, if I know you're a trank OD, you're going to go to the hospital. We're going to put you on dialysis and try to strip it out of your blood. We're going to sedate, paralyze, and intubate you and put you on dialysis in the ICU. No, Iris. Doesn't eat fat. It likes fat. It's fat soluble. So the more fat you have, the more of this drug you hold on to. When you burn the fat, the more of the drug is released into your body because it's being stored in the fat, just like I said. So, yep, problem. So, I mean, that's why I keep saying to everybody, look, it's not the same as crocodile. Crocodile we can reverse. We know you're going to have issues wherever you injected it. You inject trank in your left arm, all of a sudden you have a huge black necrotic patch on the right arm randomly. And we don't know why. The other problem we're finding with trank is an inconsistent sore and death. Let me explain. Let's say you inject trank into your arm, and your arm starts turning colors right here. And you have a tendon sheath infection. And Dr. Chris comes in, because the lovely Dr. Raynor, Ortho God, not your everyday ortho, comes in, and he cuts all of that out and puts you on all these antibiotics and all of these things, right? 4 days later, you could have a random necrotic patch on the other arm that appears. Nowhere near he just operated. And then he's chasing that. And then all of a sudden you have a huge patch on your leg that starts turning black. We have patients the days later when we know they haven't taken anything else because it's not because it's flowing in blood, but it's stored in fat. So all of the sudden, the fat released into the blood and it found a spot. It was in the body fat in your belly, and your body started burning that, and it released there. We don't know. So you are literally chasing a ghost. Like liquid leprosy, kind of. All of a sudden, we are chasing a ghost. You don't just have to worry about localization and healing. Another problem we've had with it is we send a lot of these patients to the burn unit.
So you come out missing whole large patches of skin. That's just as dangerous.
Skin, muscle. And the people most equipped to deal with it and debride the wounds to take out the ick are burn patients and burn wards.
And
And the
debriding
thing-
is not a nice procedure for anybody.
Right. And here's the thing. I have seen patients where they took a skin graft off the back and put it on the guy's thigh. And then all of the sudden, near where they took the graft from turned black and died.
Okay. I see what you did there.
So then it becomes a problem. Danny, what did you show him? The Dr. Chris video? You know what we're going to do? Let's go here. I keep hearing Loki say, here's the problem. Like that wasn't enough of a problem. Let's roll this back a little bit. Okay? We're going to roll this back a little bit. We're not going all the way to the beginning of Dr. Chris's video. We'll go back
do in fact have alpha-2 adrenergic receptors spread throughout the central and peripheral nervous system, specifically in the pontine locus ceruleus, medullospinal tracts, rostroventrolateral medulla, and the dorsal horn of the spinal cord. That's a freaking mouthful and a whole lot of parts of the brain. The term adrenergic receptor refers to a protein-coupled receptor on the surface of cells that gets activated when they bind a type of neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. These neurotransmitters are signaling molecules secreted by a neuron to affect another cell across a synapse, basically a chemical messenger. Those of the catecholamine variety are involved in the stimulation of our organs by the sympathetic nervous system. They help to trigger the fight or flight response. A clip from Dr. Joseph DeRosio's recent lecture on xylazine will shed some more light on this process.
2.0.
Let's listen in.
It decreases the outflow of catecholamines and it blocks that flow of those neurotransmitters that would keep you awake, and so it causes sedation. So it causes a very severe CNS compression.
He goes on to explain,
it does not affect the respiratory rate, but it does is decrease your mental status so much that if you occluded your airway, that you wouldn't necessarily wake up to clear it.
Oh, so people run the risk of just casually slipping away?
People are dying without even having the tinfoil down. You know, they're taking a hoot and they're just dead.
Dr. DeRosio's lecture is thorough, and I recommend it for those of you interested in diving deeper. Now, bear in mind, while the actual data we have surrounding xylazine is based on animals, medical providers are caught amidst an impromptu study of sorts, with clinical experience and observation as the lead researcher. But there are infinite nuanced ways in which drugs interact with the body and its system. And when a life hangs in the balance, you don't want to depend on educated guesses. If we don't know precisely how long it stays inside the body or what it's doing while it's inside of you, how do we treat it? When a first responder encounters someone suffering from an overdose, there are several types of drugs that could be causing it. Opioids or benzodiazepines, for example, which each require a different form of treatment.
It is non-narcotic.
I don't know that person.
It is not a benzodiazepine either. I can't fix it if I don't know what it is.
Obviously, this has some troublesome implications for first responders like Stephanie and her team.
So generally when you encounter me or we encounter someone on an overdose, in almost all states in the United States, there's a law that protects you from prosecution if you tell us what you've taken or what your friend has taken in kind of an attempt for transparency, right? And we carry Narcan, which everybody's heard about for opiates and fentanyl. We carry something called Ramazicon, which we use to reverse benzodiazepines. You have to know what you took to know what drugs to give to reverse it.
Each of the drugs that Stephanie mentioned has side effects, some more severe than others.
Something like Ramazicon, you can cause status seizures if you give it to somebody who is dependent on benzodiazepines.
The National
Now, I'm going to clarify this, right? When I say you can cause seizures, you will have a seizure. you don't have to be an addict. If you take Xanax every day as prescribed, and you've been taking it for 5 years, every day is prescribed for anxiety, and I give you Ramazicon, depending on what your seizure threshold is, you will have a seizure. Because benzodiazepines are what we use to stop seizures. The bigger problem is the only way to stop the seizure that you're now having, because I gave you Ramazicon to stop the overdose, is for me to give you more benzodiazepines to try to override the antidote I just gave you. So what do? We usually just take someone that we know is OD'd on benzos and pop a breathing tube in and ride it out. But Ramazicon does cause seizures. And then we have to deal with the fallout. Because somebody asked me in the comments, well, I only take this prescribed, so why would I have a seizure? That's because it lowers your seizure threshold if you take it every day.
The Institute of Health defines a status seizure as 5 minutes or more of continuous clinical and or electrographic seizure activity.
By the way,
or
when you're having a seizure, you're not breathing. Anybody that goes, they're not breathing, they're having an active seizure. Yes, by definition, if you are seizing, you are not breathing while you're seizing. If you tell me they are not turning blue and they are fine, and they're breathing fine during their seizure, they are faking it.
recurrent seizure activity without recovery between seizures. Obviously, that's a problem. Now, statistically speaking, a first responder, depending on where they are stationed, may be almost guaranteed to encounter xylazine in the presence of fentanyl. In his lecture, Dr. DeRosio shared some relevant statistics.
At this point in time, it's always found with fentanyl. And so you're not really seeing people using xylazine by itself.
The study to which he is referring was done by Jewel Johnson et al. Of the Philadelphia Department of Public Health and refers specifically to the Philadelphia drug supply. Statistics like this differ region to region as different drugs circulate throughout the country. Johnson and colleagues also noted,
with the increase of xylazine, we have seen a sharp decrease in the number of benzodiazepines being used.
This makes sense, since previously fentanyl was mixed with benzodiazepines to enhance its potency, known colloquially as benzodope. As xylazine replaced benzodiazepines in the drug supply, naloxone, a drug sold under the brand name Narcan, which can be administered to reverse the effects of opioids like fentanyl, will continue to be an important tool in the hands of first responders. But it is not a magic bullet. I'll let Stephanie clear up a common misconception.
People have a perception that when we give Narcan, we're going to make them sober, which is not correct. We give just enough Narcan to relieve the respiratory depression effects of the opiate. We do not want to strip that opiate because there's other issues that come from someone withdrawing from chemicals.
As Stephanie mentioned, the goal of the first responders is to address the life-threatening symptoms of the opiate overdose, which is associated with respiratory depression, generalized central nervous depression, and meiosis. Respiratory depression, or hypoventilation, occurs when the lungs do not effectively exchange the gases oxygen and carbon dioxide, and if you can't breathe, well, unfortunately, opioid withdrawal is also a severe condition with a myriad of symptoms, including lacrimation, or flow of tears, rhinorrhea, or runny nose, piloerection, goose flesh, myalgia, muscle pain, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, autonomic hyperactivity associated with tachypnea, hyperreflexia, tachycardia, sweating, hypertension, and hyperthermia. Think of the most horrible flu possible that could result in death if not properly monitored. An editorial piece in the 2016 Society for the Study of Addiction journal reminds us, persistent vomiting and diarrhea may result, if untreated, in dehydration, hyponatremia, and resultant heart failure. There are documented cases of such deaths occurring during the withdrawal process, also in jail settings, that date back to the 1990s.
It's like not even about getting high anymore. It's about not being sick.
Hopefully, this information invites a more nuanced perspective for those suffering from addiction. Unfortunately, even if the opiate compound of the overdose is effectively treated, healthcare providers still have the xylazine to contend with.
So this is an example of a powder that contains xylazine. So you have this big xylazine peak right here, and then a fentanyl peak over here.
Of course, as Manisha Krishnan, the reporter for Vice, observes,
so this one has more xylazine than fentanyl.
So there's 24 times the amount of xylazine to fentanyl in here. It's a massive amount. And unfortunately, this is not uncommon for us to see.
And this new compound is leaving a wave of destruction in its wake, detected thus far in at least 10 states. But as we've mentioned,
but is most prevalent in Pennsylvania, where in 2020, it was found in a quarter of all of Philadelphia's fatal overdoses.
This surge has led to what healthcare professionals are calling Narcan-resistant overdoses. I love this slide from Dr. DeRosio's presentation, casually making the joke we never knew we needed.
People will get Narcan because they're not breathing or their respiratory rate is slow. Now, they may not necessarily wake up because they have xylazine in their system,
which obviously retains its sedative effects once the opioid has been treated. Dr. DeRosio goes on to commend outreach workers in Philadelphia, where
the outreach workers oftentimes carry pulse oximeters around because we see this sort of Narcan-resistant overdose.
A pulse oximeter, or pulse ox, is an electronic device that measures the saturation of oxygen carried in your red blood cells. This type of device is especially useful for a patient who remains unresponsive after administration of Narcan to ensure that they are indeed breathing normally. But we're not out of the woods yet.
To date, there's no known reversal agent. There are several studies going on where you can kind of mitigate it with certain drugs, but it's predominantly supportive care. We can't reverse it.
Obviously, if there is no known reversal agent, a person overdosing on xylazine is in trouble. Supportive care means that we're just doing our best to keep you alive until the drug runs its course. Examples of supportive care include pain management, respiratory support, nutritional support, counseling, exercise, music therapy, meditation, and palliative care. Only some of which are relevant here.
A lot of times when we get you to the hospital, they'll dialyze them.
That is, to treat a patient by means of dialysis, which helps your body remove extra fluid and waste products from your blood when the kidneys are not able to do so. Hemodialysis is the most common method of performing this procedure, whereby a tube is attached to a needle in your arm, which passes blood into an external filtration machine before it is reintroduced into the bloodstream. In an emergency situation, this would assist the kidneys, two bean-shaped organs which sit below your rib cage on each side of your spine, with their regular task of removing toxins from the blood to be excreted as urine. The whole process may take 3 to 5 hours.
We, for the purposes of overdose, kind of treat it like you would clonidine.
This is so because toxicologists and ER physicians have noticed a correlation between clonidine and xylazine overdoses, though clonidine interacts with a different type of receptor known as the imidazoline receptor. Dr. DeRosio spoke to this in his seminar.
Clonidine hits the imidazoline receptor, causes a sort of brief hypertension, but then leads to bradycardia and hypotension, and then causes lots of sedation.
Bradycardia is a type of abnormal heart rhythm or arrhythmia, which occurs when the heart beats very slowly, less than 60 beats per minute.
I love that verse.
Hypotension refers to low blood pressure, which can reduce the body's oxygen levels when severe.
But what I'll point out to you here is that xylazine is not an imidazoline and does not really cause that hypotension and bradycardia that we see with imidazoline.
Thus, the main point of symptom comparison is sedation. In the case of xylazine, the onset is rapid, approximately 1 to 2 minutes before it hits you, and the duration extends up to around 4 hours.
These germs are kicking in now. Are you high?
Unfortunately, there are other devastating side effects of xylazine, including the wounds and tissue necrosis that contributed to the zombie moniker.
It's
It looks painful.
yes, it's from interjecting with the xylazine.
Strangely, this type of wound is not restricted to the injection site. It can arise elsewhere on the body, though mainly occurring in the extremities.
I've seen people with missing fingers, with blackened skin, really serious lesions.
Many journalists have spent time in Kensington, Philadelphia to gather these sobering images.
And almost everyone here seems to have the wounds. Is this something new, seeing the wounds?
Something that just started in the past 9 months.
And with plenty of time spent on duty in Philly, our guest Stephanie has encountered her fair share.
I had one gentleman who I could see the entire mandible, maxilla. If they had had a Lafort fracture, I'd have been able to see the Lafort fracture in the face. I mean, they had a completely exposed mandible and maxilla on the one side.
It truly sounds like something out of a movie or video game. And Stephanie shared several stories like this during our interview.
One of the first bad trank cases I saw, I could see the ulna and radius and look through their arm. All the muscles between the ulna and radius, almost the entire length of the forearm, were gone, and you could look between the two bones. They could hold their arm up and you could see right between, clean through. And I said, does it hurt? Thinking maybe it's like with some of the other ones that kind of cauterize nerves. They're like, oh yeah, I feel it. I just don't care. Whereas, you know, some of the other drugs, when you have the necrosis or the gangrene, they can't feel it because they've killed off the nerves. This, they feel. They just don't care.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Necrosis is the death of body tissue, which occurs when there is too little blood flow. This process cannot be reversed, and when large areas of tissue become necrotic, the condition is called gangrene. In regards to Stephanie's comment about retained feeling,
they just don't care.
There is always a boundary between living tissue and dead tissue, and at that boundary, there is bound to be some nerve fibers that are still alive. I'll pass the mic back to Dr. DeRosio, who has seen many cases like this at his institution. Warning, this next image is fairly graphic, but of great educational importance as we establish the extent to which xylazine can impact the user.
Common patch that
There
we'll
you
see,
go.
the necrotic patch that needs to be unroofed. It needs to be debrided.
Debridement is the removal of damaged tissue or foreign objects from a wound and is necessary where necrosis has occurred. A surgeon will use various instruments to excise infected or non-viable tissue. The actual images which Dr. DeRosio is referring to were published in a 2022 article authored by Rachel Erman Dupree et al. In the Journal of Addiction Medicine. He goes on to say that these wounds can actually heal well if they are treated properly.
And here's some consecutive pictures of someone who had debridement. Now they're getting some tissue growth back there, and then now it's healed.
Thus far, it is...
Okay, hold on. We're going to roll this back for 1 second. Do you notice you can see through his arm? That is the bone. Right there. Guys. That's the bone. This right here is white bone. I mean, look how much muscle is gone.
And then now it's healed.
Thus far, it is clear that the wounding patterns are more prevalent as trank surges, but the root cause of correlation remains somewhat obscure.
It has something to do with behaviors because it's always found on the extensor surfaces.
The extensor surfaces to which the doctor is referring are any surfaces on the outside of a joint, associated with the musculature that straightens a joint, the backside of the arm or the front side of the thigh, for example. This is in contrast to flexor surfaces, which overlay flexor muscles that decrease the angle between bones on the side of the joint. A behavioral factor could be scratching or rubbing from a piece of clothing, anything that might irritate the skin.
I'm gonna tell you something about me, Joe Rogan, that you might not know. I smoke rocks.
If the immune system is compromised by long-standing drug abuse or, say, poor nutrition for someone living on the street, even a simple wound may become infected.
Do you think that you might lose that finger?
Yeah.
Some component of the drug could also be corrosive to human tissue, traveling through the bloodstream and seeping out into the tissues far away from the injection site via a process called extravasation, which refers to the leakage of blood, lymph, or other fluid from a blood vessel or tube into the tissue around it. This type of leakage could cause an infection to occur, and abscesses, painful collection of pus, usually caused by a bacterial infection, and ulcers, open sore on an external or internal surface of the body, to form.
Do you have these types of abscesses in other parts of your body?
Lot of internal.
A lot of internal.
Yes, interns, this type of thing can occur both inside and outside. And the fun doesn't stop there.
I was seeing a lot of tendon sheath infections in hands and people massively septic with these tendon sheath infections. And I was like, that's odd. That's not a normal thing.
Stephanie is correct. So a tendon sheath is a thin layer of tissue that surrounds many tendons in the body and is filled with lubricating fluid, allowing the tendon to move smoothly and freely through it. Tendons and their sheaths fall under the care of orthopedic surgeons like myself.
I am a surgeon.
And we typically wouldn't see infections in these structures unless the patient had some kind of ill-treated puncture wound. The sepsis to which she is referring is the body's extreme response to a localized infection that spreads throughout the body and becomes systemic. This life-threatening emergency is characterized by symptoms such as loss of consciousness, severe breathlessness, a high temperature, fever, or a low body temperature, a change in mental status like confusion or disorientation, slurred speech, cold, clammy, and pale or mottled skin, a fast heartbeat, fast breathing, and significantly reduced blood pressure. Widespread inflammation can damage tissue and interfere with blood flow, causing blood pressure to drop dangerously low, which limits oxygen reaching the organs and tissues. The term septic shock describes this state of low blood pressure. While most people recover from mild sepsis, the mortality rate for septic shock is about 30 to 40%. Treatment for these conditions typically involves antibiotics, administered first via intravenous and subsequently by oral means once the patient has stabilized clinically. Fluids will also be provided intravenously, and vasopressors may be administered to narrow blood vessels and help increase blood pressure. Depending on the degree these infections can be managed, the sepsis may become chronic. The reality is that sometimes the addiction is too powerful.
It's just every time I get to day 10 and I'm still withdrawing.
If circumstances do not change, the negative consequences will continue to worsen, leading in many cases to amputation, as we've already seen. I covered amputation.
Okay. Yes, Croc, we do. So there's the problem. So what other questions do people have? Let's see. Let me scroll up. Yeah, I do have express permission to use myself. And that's how he got to use me for all this stuff.
Well, just, it doesn't hurt to ask sometimes.
Yeah, no, I talked to Chris. I credited him on, he's getting all the let's see, where are we?
We have no idea.
Hold on.
Especially if it's lipophilic.
Yeah, it's not the same kind of skin breakdown. But it's similar. The problem is, at least with what you're fighting, if it's kept clean, like we know what's going on, you can put different types of, dressings and skin healing things. This, it just eats it. It doesn't matter. We don't know the half-life. Okay, Amanda, I'll look at it. We don't know the half-life. Because we don't use it in people, but what I can tell you, is generally 4 to 7 days because it's lipophilic. So by day 7, it's usually predominantly out of their system.
Depends on how.
Sod. Hold on. Yeah, sod. Yeah, I'm sure. And bed sores and CHF and all that stuff are awful. But the only upside to the kind that you have, well, they suck. And I wish we could, healing, and you can use advanced dressings and then like the foam dressings. Sod, I gotta send you a picture. There's a couple really, really good ones that I know of that might help you. There's nothing you can do with this. How weight dependent is stuff like this? So, Mayor Wrench. It's actually not as weight dependent as it is body fat dependent. So if you're skinny fat, someone that's like a size 2 or a 4, but like you have a 40% body fat compared to like a 200-pound bodybuilder who has 3% body fat, the skinny fat person is going to have issues with it a lot longer than somebody that has a very low body fat percentage. Your congestive heart failure can actually get better, not just worse. Because I have some stage F issues with my heart failing from my vasculature and my vascular issues. So CHF can get better to a degree. And you can optimize the heart with certain drugs. But
You and me both, Big Gnome. You and me both. I'd be boned too. But I stay away from that shit anyway.
it's a high body fat percentage, which is the bigger issue. Because it lives in fat. I mean, you could Iris, but they would. I mean, it depends. And depends what your end goal is. They smell really bad. Somebody did ask me, it was Debbie, we were talking about this. Does it smell like gangrene? If you've ever smelled gangrene, you know what I'm talking about. No, it doesn't smell like gangrene. It smells like 3-day-old people soup. It smells like 3-day decomposition in the summer.
Ugh. God, it's run into a meat grinder a week later. You'll have all it. You will know a lot.
Iris, I know he's your ex and you don't see him. You would smell him blocks away. Trust me. You can smell the zombies before you see them. Yeah, Creed, exactly.
Yup.
Exactly that. Or the people that are that the 4-day-old bloated corpse that pops when you try to move it. Yeah, gangrene smells horrible. Absolutely horrible, but I would take smelling
Nothing like that.
gangrene over this any day.
Ugh.
There were not any paramedic will tell you, not even paramedic. Patty was an animal control officer, and she will agree with me. The original Altoids in the tin, like that red and white tin of Altoids, not the wussy blue Altoids. The original ones. The ones that burn if you like try to chew them. Take an entire handful of those, pop them in your mouth, and smear some Noxzema under your nose and chew those puppies. You smell nothing. You will still smell this. And it will your clothes will smell like it, even if you didn't touch it.
Yep.
You can't get the smell out. Mm-mm.
At that point, you have to replace uniforms, boots, everything.
Yes, sod. 3-day-old human corpse left in hot dorm room. That is what those zombies smell like when they're walking around. And then they get out and they climb into your ambulance smelling like that.
Uh-huh.
Or into a hospital bed. And then even after they've bleached that hospital room 84 times, it still smells like that. I'm selling your dog, Croc. Mm-hmm. Because I had one of these patients and they were like, I was like, do you do drink? No. I can smell you. I know the answer to this. I can smell you.
No, Creed, you don't want her. Trust me. Dog is spoiled, not just spoiled, but nuts.
Good job, Mayor Wrench.
Go to bed.
Okay, we have a domestic going on at the Crocker residence over bedtime. Yeah, Amanda. That dog's neurotic. But yeah, I mean, this is day old, days and days old decomposing smell. Okay, well. Oh yeah, Iris, I put mine to sleep in between. Yeah, saw it. They're the calls were like I walk up to the front door of the house and I'm still in the hallway and I go, call the coroner, just start him my way. It is that hydrogen sulfide 3-day-old in the summer heat with maggots decomp. It's not like that sickly, sweet gangrenous decomp. No, it is eye-watering.
Green.
Okay. Yeah.
If I had to pick,
oh my lord, Krieg. Yeah, you can't get rid of the smell. You're not getting rid of that smell. It's insane. The Czech police are fun. Yeah, Mayor Wrench, this is literally like I'm going in a minute. Yeah, I just like that.
yup.
Mm-hmm. Yep, those. Yep, all of those. Uh-huh. But yeah. Guy dissolve into the bed in the barracks in Georgia in the summer. Yes, that is what you will smell. And there's not enough showering to get the smell off you.
Not surprised there, Sod. Night night, Iris.
But yeah. So I mean, hopefully that answered some of the questions. To all you that are catching this later, welcome to our lair. Feel free to ask questions. I'll answer as many as I can. Love you all. Catch you tomorrow. Say goodnight, Patty and Croc.
Good night, Patty and Croc. I'm sorry, I couldn't let it go. Okay,
You are
later.
You are the epitome of a dad joke.
Sorry.
Bye, guys.